Hey guys, what is going on? Chris here, as always, with Shughead Gaming, and here's my review for Dark Legion, developed by Ice World for the PlayStation VR and released June 15th for an estimated price of $13, depending on your region. Dark Legion is a first-person shooter in which you have crash-landed on a strange and desolate planet. Find an energy source to fix your ship and survive the onslaught of soldiers and the planet's deadly creatures. Using a multitude of weapons and the power of magic, does this game scratch the itch left by Killing Floor Incursion, or is it just another shooter? Let's find out. As always guys, if you like this video, you know the deal, hit that like button, and if you want more PSVR content from me, please consider subscribing, and for updates, hit that bell icon. Graphics are up first. Dark Legion is priced as a budget shooter, and it looks like a budget shooter. This doesn't mean it's ugly by any means, but it does show its budget roots in many ways. The early cave levels are actually the worst looking levels in the game, and they don't start the game off on its best footing. Textures are bland and blurry, and you can see detail popping in as you walk forward. The caves feel sparse and lifeless, with poor lighting, shadow effects, and not a lot of ambiance that would create a sense of being on a strange planet. Further to this, the cave systems begin to feel a little corridor-like and predictable. The early cave levels do, however, burst with color, and the night sky is actually really awesome to stare up and look at, with its starry sky really popping in the headset. Later levels become much more industrial looking as the game ventures into a more generic metal corridors and man-made structures. While generic in nature, they do, however, present better in the headset, and graphic fidelity of this environment is noticeably improved. And while draw distance isn't as solid as it was in, say, something like Code 51 Mecha Arena, it was still awesome to get some wide open environments and really stare across at enemies and pop off some headshots. Unfortunately, the scope on the sniper rifle is broken and it doesn't really work, so instead you'll find yourself squinting across the map and firing off your handgun or assault rifle, or maybe a missile. Unfortunately, these more industrial-themed levels also get old quick and eventually start to feel very padded and boring. Enemy creatures look decent and come off as lower-budget enemies from Farpoint as they crawl out of the ground, while enemy soldiers in later levels are rendered decent but animate like 1980s cartoon characters. Gun models, like most of the game, are okay, but are nothing spectacular. They look sharp up close and have a good sense of scale, but it's nothing you haven't seen a bunch of times before and done better. Overall, outside of some of the horrendous cutscenes, the game does a competent job graphically and mostly comes off as Mortal Blitz meets a extremely budget Farpoint. And that brings us to sound.
What's going on? We need to check it out.
Dark Legion's sounds are a mixed bag, so let's just dive right in. Straight away, the best thing sound-wise is the gun sounds. Gun sounds across the board are actually well done, coming off as authentic for a sci-fi game, but also sounding powerful. Good sounding weapons are half the battle in making a gun game fun, and Dark Legion succeeds here for sure. Where it doesn't succeed for sure is in the voice acting, which is overly loud and sounds like a bad junior high drama recital. Other sounds range from decent, like ambient world sounds and some creatures, to atrocious NPC footsteps and the constantly irritating floating AI that follows you and continually chirps and rattles. I tried to kill this motherfucker many times with many weapons. 3D audio is present but not spectacular, and that I could tell something was coming for me around the corner, but I also never really felt that the world's soundscape was alive around me, like great VR audio manages to capture. Music is sparse, and while not irritating, it was ultimately forgettable. Overall, the sound package here in Dark Legion was adequate for a budget title, coming off as mostly generic and subpar, but with some decent weapon effects that certainly help sell the fun factor. And of course that brings us to gameplay. Imagine if Mortal Blitz got some half-baked full motion movement, a cave level, and a little less polish, and you have Dark Legion. Dark Legion is a 2-hour long shooter. Yeah, don't believe the write-up it's not a 12-hour shooter, it's a 2-hour shooter. that blends some decent two-handed combat with some really weak magic implementation and takes you through 2 environments worth of consumable collecting and dumb AI. That being said, it's still dumb fun for those looking for a shooter with full locomotion and an itchy trigger finger. Movement is accomplished by either teleportation or full locomotion, with neither being an ideal option on its own. Teleportation is a pain as it makes navigating combat difficult, and full locomotion is just too slow for some of the longer walking parts. This could be done to pad the game or for simply fear of making people sick. Either way, a run option would have been very welcomed. Funny enough, holding your right move controller sideways sped up the movement, but that's just weird. All in all, I found myself flipping between the 2 methods of movement, and luckily this option was mapped to a face button for a not so painful switch on the go. Turning is click only, and well, that sucks. As you collect and use the multitude of weapons, you will store and access these on your handy tool belt. Grabbing and dropping weapons never felt very intuitive, but once you get a hang of the odd design choices, moving and using weapons is about as good as any full locomotion shooter on the PSVR with the move controllers, and inventory management as well. Speaking of inventory management, the game is made way too easy because of the ample health syringes throughout the game. This made dying mostly an afterthought, so don't expect a huge challenge here, and expect to have over 150 syringes. And yes, I said something about magic. So, as you kill enemies, you will see an energy bar on your right arm fill up. Once it does, you can throw fireballs. That's about it. And it takes forever to fill up, so don't get overly excited about throwing fireballs throughout your campaign run. This was obviously an afterthought, and while it doesn't hurt the already easy game, it doesn't really add anything either. Basically, you will spend your time walking through levels, picking up ammo and syringes, throwing levers, and killing enemies. Thankfully, killing enemies is pretty fun, as tracking and gunplay is well done, and even though enemies lack anything resembling competent AI, they're still fun to mow down, as only VR can deliver. This can be played sitting, but I recommend standing and a moderate amount of space, as you'll be waving your arms up and down and all around. Motion sickness could affect some, but the slow walking, click turning, and optional teleportation should alleviate most of that. And that brings us to fun factor, my final verdict. So guys, it's a budget shooter. It's fun, but it's a budget shooter. It's not very long, diverse, or smart, but it is fun. It has hit or miss graphics and sound, but it's fun, and for around $13, it's priced right. Anyway, I rate games on a scale of buy, wait for a sale, or burn it to the ground. If you're a shooter fan and you have played Killing Floor Incursion for the 3rd time, this could be a buy for you, especially at this price. For those not as trigger happy, maybe wait for a sale. You're not missing out on much, and you'll feel better if you paid $8 instead. Anyways, guys, that's it for me. If you liked this video, hit that like button. And if you want more PSVR content from me, you know the deal. Please consider subscribing. And for updates, hit that bell icon. I will catch you guys on my next video.